Ask everybody to sign a code of conduct. And the reason for having a code of conduct, there's a number of really good reasons. But if you think of OKids kind of like a castle, there's things that we want to do to keep people with less than good intentions out of the castle walls. So that would be like Cozy doing the background checks and meeting with you, talking with you, and that would be, keeping people who would want to hurt kids outside the castle walls. And I'm really proud of Ocean Hills for thinking through this whole aspect of it, because a lot of religious organizations have really shied away from talking about child abuse. It's uncomfortable. It's something we'd rather just assume everybody's great and it's all going to be good, and we need to be more vigilant than that for our kids. So the code of conduct is setting up this environment where even if someone with less than good intentions was working with our kids, that nothing bad is going to happen to them on our watch, that we're really trying to create a safe environment where we're all on the same page. So one reason to have a code of conduct is that we all have the same really clear expectations in terms of what's expected, what kind of behavior is appropriate in working with these kids, and we're all using the same language, so we're all on the same page. A second reason, like I said, it creates an environment where it's really hard to hurt kids, for kids to get hurt. And while we don't really want to think about that happening in churches, it happens. And so by having a code of conduct, we're saying that we want to make sure that nothing is going to happen on our watch to the best of our abilities. The third thing a code of conduct does is it really obligates us and empowers us that if we see something that's off, that doesn't go along with the behaviors that we've talked about and all agreed to, that we feel like we can say something. That a child getting hurt doesn't just get ignored, where you always hear those cases in the news where looking back at it, people say, oh, something was off and I never said anything. For whatever reason, they're afraid or they just weren't sure. That person had been involved in that organization for so long. But by having this code of conduct, it's asking each of us to be aware. And you don't want to walk around feeling suspicious about people, but it's just having that vigilance that we're all going to be keeping our eyes open and alert to make sure our kids are safe. There's 3 T's, so we're going to talk about appropriate touch, appropriate talk, and appropriate territory. So appropriate touches, handshakes and high fives. I think when we're talking about touches with kids, it's always better to let them initiate the physical touch. You don't really know what experiences they've had, so just asking them, hey, do you want a high five or a handshake? Or some kids there you'll know really well and you know their families, and it's a different situation. But for some kids, if you've never met them before, you want to have them initiate the physical contact. Girls walking hand in hand, short congratulatory or greeting hugs. Side hugs are always good. A hug around the side instead of like the full-on front embrace. Arms around the shoulders, piggybacks with the younger campers, I guess younger students in OKids. Leg sitting, I'm not super clear. Leg sitting is versus loud sitting, is that the?
Did I change it?
Well, it says leg sitting, and I'm that sounds super uncomfortable. I'm not sure what leg sitting is.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
You can leg sit if you can figure it out. What that is.
Leg sit, yeah, you can figure out what that is. I would say, when you're dealing with older kindergarten and up, they should not be on your lap. Younger, they love to be comforted by you. And what I usually do, because I have terrible knees anyways, so I just kind of sit among them and I just bring them in close. And I think if you're holding a child that has been crying or something like that, I think it's appropriate to hold them and sit down so they're in your lap. But K and up, no.
Yeah, so that would be in the not appropriate section. If you're K through 4th or 6th, or if a child crawls up on your lap, which happens, like if you know this child well, you don't need to freak out and push them away. Don't sit on my lap, but just slide them over and say, oh, and kids, we all have our own space, so you can sit right next to me. So don't make a big deal about it, but just redirect that.
I have
made it really clear. They said any holding is toddlers only, preschool no. So there was a 4-year-old with very severe developmental delays and autism, and they said we can't hold him. So
We're okay with that. We're okay with the holding. Yeah. I don't think.
so you don't have a problem. I mean, that's not.
No.
I
No.
thought that was mandated by the state.
I don't think so. I think that's just
No, that's what
maybe in like a restraint way. Was it a oh, okay.
lap sitting. But
Oh.
you said no lap sitting. But I'm talking about for the little ones too. So the little ones, up to probably age 3.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, lap sitting as a 3-year-old, I mean, yeah, try and, sit them off to the side. But I think if a kid, we all have those kids when, they've been crying or, something like that, and you are the one comforting them, and it's time to sit with Ollie, you can sit down and continue to console the child. I'm okay with that. I think taking a kid and sitting them on your lap, that's different.
How about if they're your daughter?
That's different.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know if we want to make a bad example.
Totally. Yeah, no. I mean, well, you know what? That's actually a good point.
I would think in OKids that you maybe just say, oh, in OKids you're just going to sit next to me.
Yeah.
Because then everybody, it's hard to make that
that's
exception,
Yeah,
I would
totally.
think.
They don't
I don't know.
understand that. So yeah, I would agree with that. Thank you.
So on the not appropriate side, like back rubs, arm tickles, massages, obviously touching of private parts, touching a child in anger or disgust or frustration. Usually in the span of OKids, you're not going to reach that point by then, but if you feel yourself getting really frustrated with a child, there's enough adults, just like step away, take a break. Sexual embraces, lap sitting, which we just talked about, kissing, intimate wrestling or tickling, just things that could be misconstrued, even if it's done obviously with good intentions. Think about how these kids might take that if they've had any kind of history of abuse or what they might bring home to their families. This happened at church, might be misconstrued. Appropriate talk. Thanks. Verbal praise for achievement or behavior is appropriate, especially the more specific you can make it for kids, the better. So I'm just saying, oh, you're so great at that. Saying, wow, you took a lot of time on that drawing. You put a lot of details into it. So if you can be more specific in your praise, then it makes them feel like you're really paying attention versus just saying, you're so wonderful. Verbal encouragement, obviously, scripture-based teaching is all appropriate. Not appropriate, compliments or questions relating to your body development or even talking a lot about you're so beautiful or things like that. Those things can be said purely complimentary, but they're also said by people who are grooming kids for more than that. So it's better just to avoid those kind of compliments. Any kind of sexual jokes, innuendos, bathroom humor, vulgar language. Obviously, we want to be role models to these kids. And any kind of individual secrets. The word secret is actually really, for a child who's been abused or might have that background, that's one of those words you don't want to use because secrets are, in that setting, can be really bad secrets that they've had to keep. So just don't use the word secret. At OKids, everything's open. You just want to be above board in everything that you say and do. Special gifts for one child, you want to make it equitable. So you're not just picking out a certain child and bringing them special things. You want to make everyone feel included and make it fair. Any kind of sexual coaching or conversation would be not appropriate. Territory. Public one-on-one interactions are totally appropriate. So if you're out on that courtyard area and you're having a conversation kind of over at a table with a child, that's fine. You're one-on-one with them because there's adults out there who can see you. So you just always want to be in the line of sight of another adult. So that you're never isolating a child. And there's places in that facility where it's really easy to do that. So you just want to make sure that you're aware someone else is around. They don't necessarily have to be able to hear your conversation, but that they can see you, that you're line of sight from them. And like when you're taking them to the bathroom too, that your line of sight where other adults could see you. Group or public environments are appropriate. And not appropriate would be sitting or lying on a bed with a minor. There's not really a place for that at OKids. Or private one-on-one interactions where you're around a corner or you're anywhere that's isolated is not, that's not okay. You want to make kids feel safe. And if they know they're out where other people can see them, they're going to feel safe. It also just sends the message to parents that everything here is above board. We're not trying to hide anything. We're not trying to talk your child into anything, coerce them into anything. And it also protects you from any kind of false accusations. If you're always in the line of sight of another adult, then you don't ever have to worry about that being falsely said if we always have 2 adults around. Do you want me to go through the clothing thing, or is that something different?
They will get it and read it.
Okay.
So I'll go over it.
So just basically, one-on-one interactions, you need to be done within sight of another adult, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Always be with another person that knows the bathroom policy, so you should be fine. Yeah.
So you
And
have
you'll
a 3-year-old,
receive
so
it.
you have a 3-year-old that's got to go right now, and there's 2 of you in the class.
Yeah. So there are, so I don't, can we, I have like a thing that will explain it. And so the bathroom is now in the 4s, 5s room. So there's always another person right there. So